The Storyteller's Secret by Carmine Gallo. Read for you by the author.
Preface. Your story is my passion. I was lying flat on my back. I had slipped on a sheet of ice outside of my 500-square-foot apartment in western Wisconsin. The thermometer hit 0 that morning, 20 degrees colder if you counted the wind chill. I had torn my only suit, an expensive Italian outfit I had proudly purchased in San Francisco a few days earlier, before getting in my car and driving 2,000 miles to take my first television job as a morning news anchor. As I was lying on the sidewalk in the early morning freeze looking up at a decaying apartment complex in the worst part of town, a number of questions raced through my mind. Had I made the right decision to give up law school, the safe choice to pursue my passion, a career in broadcast journalism? Would I be stuck making $15,000 a year for the rest of my career? Would my father, who had landed on these shores as an Italian immigrant with $20 in his pocket after World War II, have been proud of my decision? Or would the former prisoner of war have felt that his son was squandering an opportunity to make it in America? I didn't have an answer to all of my questions at the moment, but I reached 2 conclusions. First, it's best to buy 2-for-1 suits, preferably at a discount if you can barely afford to pay your $400 monthly rent. Second, that following my passion would be really, really tough, even harder than the ice I had just cracked with my head. And with that, I got up, picked up my papers, now stuck on the frozen pavement, wiped the snow off my suit, and continued on my way to work. I wasn't prepared for the Wisconsin winter, but I was prepared to face whatever obstacle would come next, because, ultimately, you don't choose your passion, it chooses you. 25 years later, I found myself asking the question again, why am I here? In May 2014, I had been invited to speak at an exclusive gathering of entrepreneurs and CEOs attending the Coastal Ventures Summit at a resort at the foot of the Golden Gate Bridge in Marin County. The event's host, billionaire venture capitalist Vinod Khosla, had invited me personally, though initially I couldn't see why. The other speakers included Bill Gates, Google founders Sergey Brin and Larry Page, Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff, former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, and former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. During an elegant dinner on the first night of the conference, as I felt like the only person in the room who needed an introduction, I began to question my role at the event. I'm not a billionaire. I haven't eradicated smallpox or run a country. Why am I here? But Khosla immediately put me at ease when he took the stage. Addressing the entrepreneurs in the audience, he said, "You're all brilliant, which is why I invest in you. But many of you cannot tell an emotional story. And that's why I invited Carmine Gallo to speak to you." Now, on one hand, it struck me as I looked around the room that every person there was already a storyteller. In fact, I had written about the more famous ones and their effective communication styles. And the impressive young entrepreneurs in the audience were all storytellers too. Some were more effective than others, but they all had to learn to tell a story if they hoped to change the world with their ideas. In fact, the ones who stood out knew intuitively what neuroscientists and researchers are just beginning to understand. One emotional and vivid customer story is far more persuasive than a data dump in 85 PowerPoint slides. A person can have a great idea, but if that person cannot inspire others to buy into that idea, it doesn't matter. What struck me even more as I interacted with that group was the degree to which the most successful entrepreneurs and thought leaders were hungry to learn more about this most elemental and crucial part.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?